Okay, Doug, you're live.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start the workshop tonight and go through the applications in order. So our first application is 2020-035. Swaki.
Basically, I don't see any problem with it. They want to expand their driveway. Both of their neighbors on either side of them have wider driveways as well. So it looks like it's just widening it to about the same width as the other people around them. Pretty much have the same size driveways.
Christian, the other component of this is that they have a 2-car garage versus 3-car garage for the other ones. And I wonder, Kevin, is there a requirement, I can't recall, of distance past the side of the garage door?
They're allowed to be up to the back line of the garage. That portion would be considered a garage extension, as long as that's 10 foot wide off the garage and not further than the back wall of the garage. It's compliant. There's no variance needed
For that piece of it. And I mean the width versus the length. Isn't there a variance needed for the width past the side of the garage, not the back, the side?
No, because anything between the front wall and the back wall of the garage would be considered a driveway extension.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So since we don't have a driveway extension application, they're just paving to the front of the garage.
That portion, the driveway extension can be allowed to be stone if they wish. But anything forward of the garage wall, front garage wall, would need to be paved. I don't know for certain if they're paving it or not. We'd have to ask during the meeting.
But they were showing a driveway extension on the application. But they haven't applied for one, right?
It meets code, so there's no variance for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on this? We'll move on. 37.
This is to request an additional or a second 7 foot by 7 foot shed, which actually is only creating a 6 square foot overage to code based on size of property. Looks like this shed is going to be placed closer to the pool area for their storage of pool items and patio furniture.
Okay. Discussion?
It also appears to me that it looks like one of the a little more temporary of a shed, the plastic, I think Rubbermaid type brand shed. So it's sort of mobile anyways. So I don't really have a big deal with it.
It's also going to be hidden behind the house, so I'm okay with it. So that's mine. They're requesting a 49-foot front setback for a deck, whereas 41 is allowed. So that the deck is going to be 12 by 6. The 12 is going to be, more towards the road, so in the long direction. My question.
Covering stairs too, right?
Yes, there's going to be stairs going to the driveway. Well, towards the driveway. So.
The question that I had on this application, and Heather, maybe you can answer this for me since it was assigned to you. I didn't see anything in the applicant's paperwork about why the deck is being asked for. So with regarding of our second finding of fact, like, can it be achieved by some other feasible method? I'm kind of unclear if it can or not, because the intention of why the deck's being asked for is not in here. Do you know anything about that?
No, I do not. And that was one of my questions for the applicant as well.
Then we'll ask it to the applicant. That was my only question.
Mhm.
My other question, Heather, was if they could twist it 90 degrees. Lower the ask from us. And
Right, that was another thing, because I went by the area and unfortunately, a lot of those houses on that road, I mean, there's excluding a few, they don't really have much of a front. And there's also it's not shown on the pictures, but there's also a large tree in the front yard. So I don't know how that impacts it at all.
Okay.
Next is Apex, 39 and 40.
And one is reduction of the parking spots and the other's a rear set.
Yeah, what is it?
The 20-foot rear setback versus 30 where is allowed or required.
We've granted them other setback variances for the project, just so you know.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, just reading their application, they made a good argument. They listed their other properties and what they were at full capacity and how many cars were in there. So if those numbers are true and accurate, then I'm okay with that. And the 20-foot, sorry.
No, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
That's okay. The 20-foot setback is where there's going to be parking spaces. So I'm okay with that as well.
And which side is that, east?
I have to open it up.
While you guys are looking at the map, I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, with regards to 039 and 040, I am employed by the Rochester Institute of Technology, which they're building the houses for, the apartments for. So I'm willing to recuse myself if you deem that a conflict of interest. If not, I'll vote.
I don't believe it's not a direct fiduciary responsibility, so I think you're okay.
Right. I just wanted to put that out there for ethical purposes. In which case, I have no concerns with the application. I do have a couple small questions for the applicant, but in general, I'm not opposed to this at all.
My consistent thing that I've said for all the other places that have done reduction in parking, I always have an interest, if at all possible, to have some sort of a land bank for future concerns if it does end up getting pretty busy. I think that this one is pretty dense on that spot, on that property. So I don't know, I still have a concern, but maybe I'm unfounded. So that's why I look for a land bank.
Was this the property where they were going to have like a phase 2? Or am I
Yeah.
thinking?
Phase 2.
Okay.
I have a question about that because it says 382 apartments, and I guess 77 of those are in phase 2. Now, but when the requirement is 2.5 spaces per unit, but the math doesn't quite add up where I got 382 times 2.5 is 955, not 948.
Oh.
So I don't know where they got the 948 from. And if, I guess my questions, I was also going to ask about the land banking you already mentioned, Bob, but I also was going to ask about what are the number of students that they plan on, because I mean, number of apartments doesn't equate number of students that are going to be living there.
That was my exact question too, Christian. I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, because I don't know if those units are double occupancy, triple,
Quad.
they're pretty a mix, I'm assuming. And also they had mentioned that they had done, they had looked at the lodge and the hill to kind of get an idea of to how many cars were there at times. And I was just curious as to when they took that sample, if that was, I mean, I'm presuming it was before pre-pandemic that they had done all this, because post wouldn't be applicable, but I was just curious about when they did do that sampling. Besides that, yeah, I just want to make sure that there are adequate spaces, and 21 or 22% reduction is fairly,
Sizable.
it's a lot, it's a bit, so.
It is.
Make sure there isn't going to be issues going down the line, especially once they get phase 2 done.
Yeah, and speaking for me, I want this to go through. I think there's a lot of value in this, and also value to the neighborhoods around it. So I really have I believe it's important to do that. I don't want to see, thousands of students in the surrounding, ideally. So just, I weigh that in when I'm looking at it. That's it.
The one thing I did want to point out is the hill and the lodge that they reference for the parking. Those are actually, this project is closer to RIT versus those other two sites. So they would have, if you're gonna be walking to school, you have the more likelihood to picking this site versus the other two.
Good observation.
Fair point. Yep.
And Bob, that's in the south east corner of the site. It's right top towards the bottom of the building.
Yeah, and my point in asking that, because I forgot,
That's
when
okay.
last week we got this, but my point is that's like wasteland back there. It's not wasteland, but there's nothing back there.
Right. Well, because in the 30-foot rear setback here is the drive aisle to get to the parking and around the building.
Okay.
So just something to note.
Okay, application 41. 5-foot setback where 3 foot is required.
So this is a garage add-on to a house. The lot really does limit the location for this if they want that extra space. I personally think that when you're putting a garage on a house that doesn't have one, I think it adds value to everybody in the neighborhood. Gives them a chance to hide, things they don't want out in the open, park their car, put things away. To me, I don't really see a problem with this.
I agree.
Plus, the house does have a garage. It's one of those houses that the garage is in the first floor.
Oh,
It's like a 1-car garage
look at that again.
inside. If you gotta go, you have to turn in.
Yep.
There is a garage technically, but it's part of the house itself,
Mhm.
not separate like most houses.
Sorry, that makes sense.
It looks like they'd be
But-
adding a garage and then moving that existing garage, probably making it into another room inside the house.
Well, that's a whole nother story, but fair enough.
But it still has somewhat of the effect of what you're saying, Bob, because it does hide more, because you have less of a visible sight line to the backyard. So there is a chance that you would not see as much. Obviously they're requesting it for a reason. That reason I'm not quite sure of.
Well, we can ask.
I think your point is still very valid, Bob, with regards to adding value to the neighborhood.
So let's see what they say, and we'll go from there.
One other concern I did think of possibly, and hopefully it never needs to be thought out or realized, but if there were to be a fire at the house or at the house next door, it might impede the
Right.
fire department from getting their equipment back. They have to go all the way around to the next house around to get over there. Because right now, it looks like once they put in that new addition, there's only going to be about a 15-foot gap between that addition and the other house. Plus also there's a hedge there as well. So there's not going to be a lot of room to get anything back there. And the other side is also just about as narrow. It looks like they're already fairly close, like 20 feet between their house and the other house on the other side. So there's not a lot of room on either side. They're kind of pinched in there.
Fair. It's something that we should discuss.
And they, in their application, they are saying that they need the space for storage and vehicles.
Okay. Next, application 42, Minetti Crossing.
Yep. So with Menotti Crossings, they're requesting a variance to have a larger double-faced pylon sign, larger in terms of square footage, not height. The height is still in compliance with code. In reading through their application and taking a walk through the site, it is a substantial variance, but I do think it's warranted, given that there are similarly sized signs on that road. It doesn't really have an impact on the character of the neighborhood in any way. And I think there's going to be a strong economic benefit because the sign they're creating will have room for other businesses besides the one that's already existing. So that could make it more lucrative for business development. So I had no real concerns with putting it forward. So I'm planning to motion it as such.
I'm the opposite view of you, Jesse. In general, for me, I am not a fan of large signs, excessively large signs.
I'm not either in general.
And it's the corridor of signs, in my opinion, and I think that's something that we even addressed not that long ago with another one down the street last month, and the month before, I guess. So I'm not in favor of it to that scale, just for my vote there. I'll probably be overridden, but that's my opinion.
Well, I actually agree with you, Bob, because the sign does look on the larger side. So maybe we can ask if there's a potential they could reduce the size of the pylon sign.
And there's going to be signage on the buildings too, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like that they are adding, areas for other tenants to put their signs up, but the rest of them meet code, or maybe they've received a variance in the past. So,
Right.
Okay. Next one, 43. 3.7 side setback, whereas 4 is required.
Yeah, I drove by over there. It looked pretty good. I'm fine with that.
mm,
I don't
Um,
have a lot of option.
I'm fine with it.
And then 44, we have a 4-foot side setback, whereas 8 foot is required. I didn't think there'd be much issues with that one either.
Do we know, John, why it's being requested?
No.
Okay, that's my only question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Jesse, I assume something, we should ask it, but that lot on the corner in that facility or in that development, they don't have much space to put it anywhere else. So to me, I think this is, yeah, they know they bought the house there, but it really left them very few options.
Yeah,
That's fair.
there's not much room there at all.
Okay,
no.
no, I'll defer to John's judgment on that.
Yeah.
My concern with this one was that all the driveways in that development are the same width. This would be the first in the neighborhood where it was widened.
That's a good point.
And we're,
I guess you should hear from the applicant, right? And if there's anybody there from the neighborhood too.
Okay.
That's my thought.
And lastly, 46.
This one right now, they don't even have a paved driveway, so this would be a value add, I think, to the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And it looks like they want to, well, right now it's 11 feet wide, stone gravel. So they want to extend it essentially to 19 feet wide, which is, I guess that part is within the code. It looks like they don't want a curb cut. They just want to have it, I'm not sure they want to just have it kind of cut off or kind of beveled or whatever to the actual existing driveway. Just the one question is if the existing driveway is going to also be paved or if just this extension. Didn't quite.
It wasn't clear to me either.
Yeah, I'll have to ask about that.
Okay.
I had no concerns with this one. I think you guys raised some good questions. The one thing I really like about this application is that they actually already spoke with the neighbor who was fine with the proposal and they were willing to provide documentation. I thought that was some really great forethought on the part of the applicant.
Yeah, definitely. I like how they filled out all the 5 questions and put a lot of information there and not just yes, no, yes, no. So
Yeah, I appreciated that a lot.
me too.
Great.
Okay, just a reminder for members of the board, just watch about speaking over other members when they're talking. Try to wait turns. Worked out really well last month from what I heard from the minutes, so let's keep doing that.
Doug, are we good on workshop?
We're good on workshop.
All right, I gotta stop the live stream. Give me a minute and we'll get ready for public hearing.